from my 3,000 sessions and roughly 4 years at New Ability so far, I've had the opportunity over the past 2 years in particular to have 39 interns that I've helped coach. And then over the past year and a half, I've created a certificate for them, and I think I've graduated about half of that class so far. So right around 20 kids have graduated from my adaptive exercise certificate course that I've created for them. And something that one thing that I created, it was another thing, is just advice in general for somebody who has a background in exercise and health and exercise science, but wants kind of just some general exercise and general advice starting off on where to go with adaptive exercise. So things that helped me, I did this as much as I possibly could when I first started, and I still do this, but learn from every aspect you possibly can. So there are a tremendous amount of outlets out there, but you have to seek them out, unfortunately, because adaptive exercise is such a niche group right now. So particularly speaking, Instagram. Instagram is going to be one of the best ones. Second platform is YouTube. That's where I put all my content out right now. But that's the best way that we can get our content to be seen by the majority amount of folks, and that's the same thing that other facilities do that are like us. Additionally, since New Ability, the entity, is a nonprofit, our marketing budget's essentially zero, so we have to rely on these cost-free mechanisms, Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, things like that, to be able to get our word out there and to be able to get our content out there. So learning from every aspect you can. So finding somebody on the internet, and Instagram in particular is what I do, that you can find some inspiration from and say, hey, that's a really cool movement pattern. I wonder if I can recreate this with this individual at this setting with this mechanism, and then with myself spotting through this way here. Outside of that is learning through different certificates. Granted, there aren't that many certificates out there for adaptive exercise, but one that I found some value in is, I forget what the organization is, but it's a Certified Special Population Certificate, CSPS. And that's something that I've looked into in the past and actually has a good amount of validity, but also spans a good amount of variety within the disability spectrum, we'll talk about, or we'll say, within the disability spectrum, we'll say. So that's another really important area to work into. Another also really important aspect too is just connecting with as many healthcare providers as you possibly can. So as many physical therapists, occupational therapists, medical doctors, neurologists, doctor of osteopathy, chiropractors, as many healthcare professionals as you possibly can, because they are going to have a world of knowledge that you probably haven't tapped into yet in terms of their graduate school and then their professional practice then too. So pick their brain. That's what I did. I was fortunate enough to be able to go on a weekend to speak to a professor of physical therapy, and I was able to ask her 2 hours of questions straight. And I would do that I think I did that for 4 or 5 months, honestly, right? Just would continue to do that on a regular basis. And that's where I was able to gain as much knowledge as I did and basically get my adjunct graduate physical therapy degree, we'll call it. Outside of that is another just massive piece of advice for anybody starting off, but just in terms of anybody starting off outside of college, is you have to cultivate the culture that you want to be proud of and that you want to live in. Every day I think about, I have to bring the energy that I want to see in this facility here. So if I don't personally bring the energy and bring that enthusiasm and bring the morale, it's not going to be there. So you have to do that at all points in time. You have to create it. You have to cultivate that. If you aren't leading by example, it's not going to happen. Make that happen. Another piece of advice too is to wrap your head around anytime you see somebody on the street with a disability, living with paralysis or in a wheelchair, start to think about, do this with a grain of salt, because you don't want to give them too much public pressure and look at them too much. But if you can glance at them, see what they're riding and see what potential level they're at, see what's going on with their body, and then start to conceptualize, how would I be able to introduce them to adaptive exercise in a safe, efficient, and fun manner that gets value for them, gets them to want to come back, and holds the experience at a high light for them also. So continue to think about, okay, I see that individual there crossing the street right now, driving a power wheelchair, probably haven't stood in quite some time, probably not a great idea to get them standing. Might be best idea for me to do some range of motion instead and try to do some PNF, some stretching and pinning and stretching through some muscles that are pretty tight and I have sensation of, to be able to bring that value, and then to be able to work through some holistic kind of movement patterns that are going to be a little bit more visible, we'll see, so that they can see and feel where their body is moving through space. And then potentially, if bone mineral density is checked and everything is kind of where it needs to be in terms of their body, maybe potentially start working into a slow progression upon building their bone mineral density up, or working them into a standing position, because psychologically speaking, that has a lot of weight and value for it too. Bringing a sense of conscious awareness to your sessions in terms of emphasizing feedback and emphasizing feedback loops for your clients is going to be absolutely essential. So at the end of every session, I said, is there anything better or different that I could have done to make that right for you? Every time people say, no, that was great. And I say, well, when I'm thinking about it right now, that one movement that I did that was second, that was kind of this adjunct hip flexion movement, that seemed a little outside of what I think was the most valuable for you. So I'm gonna work on that and get back to you and trying to find a better flow and a better kind of 1-2 punch to be able to get that to be more efficient, and then therefore just kind of more valuable then too. So if they don't give me feedback, I will give myself feedback and find something to be able to poke around at, because then that opens the door for them to say, oh, no, I thought that was actually a really good movement. What I didn't think was a good movement was the third one, where we're working on the leg press behind me here, and I felt like I wasn't able to get full extension. And then you say, okay, awesome, maybe I could spot a little bit differently, or maybe we can work through a different mechanism or a different way to kind of emphasize that movement pattern. So critiquing yourself and building a conscious awareness of what you're doing in that session is unbelievably important. And then being able to criticize yourself, opening the door for the client to be able to do then too, but in a way that it's functional criticism. It's something that's going to get you someplace then too. And the last piece of advice that I have for anybody who's just kind of starting off, something that people at, or I guess healthcare professionals at Craig Hospital told me that kind of didn't really ring a bell at first, was every injury that is a spinal cord injury, or essentially paralysis, is analogous to a snowflake. They are as unique as a snowflake is. And that is something to just understand, that what we can control as individuals in this facility here is positions we put people in, the progressions and the flow that we're going about things, the synchronicity behind 1, 2, 3. But what they can control for the client is their work ethic. So you need to emphasize that for them. Say, I will give you everything I possibly can and put forth what you can put forth too is trying your absolute best every single time. Well guys, that kind of wraps up what I've learned over 3,000 sessions as an adaptive exercise specialist, and kind of give some advice for anybody new starting off to the field of what we can do, how we can do it, and how we can do it better. If you guys have any questions or comments, please feel free to leave a comment on this video. Feel free to like and subscribe. Catch you guys in the next one. Peace.